So, Mom?
Good morning, son. Light of my life. What are you doing today?
Going on a date with Stacy.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
I have to discuss a poem with you.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm going on a date, so I'll see you later.
Well, you can go on the date, but I'll take the car away from you.
No! I'm going camping with the boys this weekend, Mom. Do you know what Saturdays are for?
Well, not for the boys if you go on this date.
Oh, Mom!
Who is it? Is it the girl or is it the boys?
I guess it's poetry.
That's good. So before we get into the poem, I think it's important to talk about the poet himself, Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound is one of the founding modernist poems, son. He was very heavy imagery in his poetry, and he was very respected by other prominent poets. T.S. Eliot himself said that Pound is more responsible for the 20th century revolution in poetry than any other individual. T.S. Eliot. During his life, Pound's poetry wasn't very well received, but his modern style of writing baffled his audience. They just weren't smart enough for him. He was a major contributor to Imagism, which is like a concise style of writing that has precise language to describe scenes, and Vorticism, which was a very modern form of art and poetry that focused on abstract concepts and geometric style. It is important to note, though, that Ezra Pound does have a controversial past because he supported fascist Italy. He was imprisoned by the U.S. Army, and during the imprisonment, he wrote another excerpt for his life's work, The Cantos.
Mom, is this a history lesson or a poetry lesson? Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll get to that, son. We will get to it. So, the poem by Ezra Pound that I wanted to talk with you about today is In a Station of the Metro. And, son, I think this is very applicable to your life right now because it's mainly about how people come and go, just like how this girl that you're going on a date with is going to go.
Oh!
Just like my 3 husbands. Everyone goes. The poem that we'll be analyzing by Ezra Pound is In a Station of the Metro. It says, the apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. I think this poem would be really great to teach in the classroom because it has a lot of content in just 2 lines. And I think this would be a really great way to kind of introduce a classroom to poetry, is to just go over this poem and show them how much we got out of just this short reading.
Let's start with the title. The title sets the scene. It takes place in a metro in Paris, France. The first thing which caught my attention was the use of the word apparition. It implies a sense of otherworldness. When you see an apparition, it's a brief encounter where you only see it for a second or 2. Just as an apparition is an intangible, so are these strangers, because even though you'll see them, you'll never be able to touch their lives. They're there for a second and then they're gone. In the same sense, the word implies a surreal, frightening experience which we will touch upon further into this analysis. The poem continues, faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. This compares these faces of the apparition to a petal. Both of these subjects have a brief lifespan. Petals, like people in the metro, come and go and are constantly on a cycle of being replaced. The wet black bough is the metro in a sense. Just like a tree has multiple spanning branches, so does a metro with multiple tunnels and stations. The phrasing of wet black bough takes on a darker tone that contrasts urban life and nature. The metro is a forest of people which all blend together like trees.
Back to the petals analogy. Comparing people to petals emphasizes how temporary and fragile everybody is. When the train leaves, just as petals fall, you may never see them again. The length of this poem is significant to note, as it reflects the length of the interaction. But regardless of how long it lasted, that does not take away from how heavy this moment was. After reading this poem, it reminded me of the word sonder. This is a noun. It says, the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. Ambitions, worries, friends, An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed. In which you might appear only once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. The anthill in this definition is just like the metro. Tunnels and passageways and branches. To someone else, you may have been that apparition, that face, that pedal in the metro. Aren't you happy we went over that poem, son? Are your hopes still high for this date?
Not really. Mom, it's okay, because I've learned people come and go, just like people at the metro.
Right.
They're just like leaves on a tree.
Right, just like the seasons. Everything changes, son. Do you need
Cross-stay on.
Okay, son, have fun on your date. Be respectful and don't get your feelings hurt.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Bye, Mom.
Grows up so fast.